Got it.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Muaythai Hour. Today's intervention for Andrew is we're joined by Mr. Mark Pease from the Queensland town. How are you, Mark?
Not too bad, thanks, guys. Yourself?
Good. We've had a week up from Andrew, so we're getting built up again, ready to go.
Ready?
I'm eating chocolate. I'm taking a bit of a page out of Si's fucking dietary advice book.
All right. That's while we're on diet, I think we've got our first kind of sponsor for the Muaythai Hour podcast. My Healthy Chef. They're going to offer 10% off your orders when you type in Rebellion.
Fit and healthy chef.
Fit and healthy chef, bro. You can't do it dirty. Oh, that's
Good
straight
start
away.
to the sponsorship, man.
What?
They're called Fit and Healthy Chef.
Fit and
and
Healthy
healthy
Chef.
What sort of food is it, though?
Sorry?
What sort of food is it?
It's delicious, actually. I'm surprised. It came somehow through Andrew, and it's actually delicious.
But is it really is it healthy, like for fighters, or is it for?
Yeah.
Okay, so fighters.
Use the code Rebellion at checkout for 10% off, Mark.
But they work with the fight dietitian too, I think.
Okay, Geordie up here.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can pick your you can pick how the calories you want, whether it's
Okay.
weight loss for Si, maintenance for Kieran, or bulk for me. And bulk and performance, and you can and it's pretty good, man. He's an Italian chef by trade, and opened up a company and starting to do good things. So shout out to Michele.
Yeah, there you go.
So again, that's not Michelle, and it's not a girl, it's Michele.
Okay.
Doing good, going to be okay.
And while you're doing this bulking diet, at least have the same decency I have of having a bit of facial hair to hide that second chin. There we go.
I don't worry about it anymore. Just let it go.
Yeah.
You've got a sophistication about you, Peasy, that kind of pulls this stuff off, unlike us.
All right. Yeah.
How's everything going with you guys up there in Queensland? How's the gym going? Fights coming up?
It's still a little bit funny with the fights, obviously because we've got the Omicron or the flu or the whatever you want to call it up here. It went through my gym quite hard last week and the week before. So all the fighters have sort of slowly come back this week. Classes got decimated, unfortunately. Fight shows, well, the usual thing happens in Queensland. Everyone wants to put shows on the very first to second week or third week in the month. And, so you get towards May and June, there's not many shows. So we're trying to space out where we can put fighters, and hopefully it'll all come to fruition with what's going to happen this year, because we did have, obviously, Chad was going to come down to Sydney and fight, but that got postponed till May, obviously because of, again, the virus. Then we did have possible match for him over in WA on Muay Thai Grand Prix, but that got the door shut pretty quickly. So Chad's first fight's not looking like it's until April now. So most, the elite guys are probably, Jaden, James, those guys won't be until probably late March, early April. So the way it's going.
So you were going to have your postponed show from last year on the 5th or the 6th of March.
What happened with mine? See, I'm the money behind it with another guy, Ash. And what happened with that is they put stipulations to the casino that everybody had to be double vaccinated. So a lot of my friends that were sponsors and so forth that have left their money in with me and said, I had to ask them, are you all vaccinated? And out of the 8 that I asked, 5 of them said, we're not getting vaccinated. We're not going to do it, neither are my workers. So I thought to myself, well, I can't use these guys on my show. So if we follow what Sydney's done, and we're probably 6 to 8 weeks behind those guys anyway up here, we might be able to hit July with unvaccinated and vaccinated all in the same venue. So that's the plan. I think it'll happen. It'll have to happen. This is running its course now, but it's still a little bit up in the air. Like I just got asked yesterday by Melina for Nick, everyone has to be double vaccinated. As before, he wasn't going to worry about it too much, but now he's obviously got the hard word from the government or whoever that he has to. So, hopefully, mate, it'll come to some sort of head quite soon.
Yeah, it's starting. I think it's starting to, I mean, said this to a couple of the guys last year. It's not something that's going to stick around forever. This stuff's happened in the past and it comes and goes. And I think as much as it's annoying at the moment, all our gyms kind of being quiet for a couple of weeks at a time.
Yeah. Look, we've got that as well.
This, and I know people don't believe in variants and stuff, but I think Omicron's been the best thing that's happened because it's kind of going through it and it's kind of getting to that endemic stage. And like my gym 2 weeks ago, I've never had 6 p.m. classes that haven't been packed. And we had a couple of nights when nobody showed up. And now we're busy again. I had like 20 people this morning at 5:30. Had a packed lunchtime class. So it bounces back, but planning ahead for shows is absolutely horrific at the moment.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, that's the reason why. I mean, I could probably move our show to another venue, but I really don't. I really want to use the Star Casino. I just think now, we've got, Paul Demacoli does a fantastic promotion. He could probably go to a bigger and better venue as well. Then you've got Nick, who's sometimes in a car park, sometimes in a basketball stadium. So it's not really the clutch of, A quality venues to get more people, sponsors and all that sort of thing to come along to shows. And that's what we want to try and do. If we can pull that off and people come in, it'll be a weekend sort of thing. People can stay at the casino, go to dinner, come and watch some good watch some great fights, and then go back and talk about it, and that's what I want to be able to do. So it's a weekend out rather than just sort of go to the, a basketball stadium or something like that sort of thing. To me, too many people are doing that here now anyway. So somebody has to step up, and I've said I've always wanted to do it anyway. As I said, I've been talking to Kieran, as Mr. C about it. It's just something I feel that is needed here in Queensland, because if not, we're going to be still bashing our heads against the wall, or vying for the same venues or and the same crowds. I'm trying to get it a little bit. Other than the fight crowd, I want to try and attract some sponsors to try and put a little bit more money into the sport and so forth. Just give back a little bit more. And as I said, if we can make it an established event and it's 2 or 3 of them a year looking like that, well, I think we'll be okay. But just trying to get it over the line, mate, at the moment, like as I said, Kieran was there for the last one, the day before, and then it got pulled. But it is what it is, mate. You just got to roll the punches, and hopefully come July the 2nd, it will be all guns a-blazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've all, not Kieran, but Andrew and I have had.
Well, you guys have been through it too.
Yeah, but we've had close calls. I mean, my May show, we had to it was on a Friday night. We pulled a pin on a Wednesday night. And that was sort of, for me, was as kind of gut wrenching as we're going to get, because we were like fully sold out, money in the bank, ready to go. But then your one in particular, because the weigh-in had been done, I think every single fight promoter that I know that I spoke to was basically like, holy fuck, I don't know what I'd actually do. Because I saw the pictures of your venue, and I love what you're doing, because I know Andrew loves basketball stadiums and stuff, but I do love, he does. And that's the thing. He likes the big open Thai style stuff, and that's fine. I do like the venues. I think I watched too many Tariq Salak shows back in the 90s. Yeah. But I love that. But like seeing your venue and the ring, I think had been just set up, and you guys started taking it out. That venue looks amazing. And I think
it is an amazing venue.
It'll be a really good package and experience for people wanting to come and watch. And like you said, it just provides something different.
Well, it's to me, it's the next sort of level up. You want to try and put fighters on a pathway. You try and like as one do, they build the fighter up, as Kieran and all you guys know. You want to try and build a fighter up. If you keep working with the same group of people, it becomes pretty stagnant. So what we're going to try and do is look for the people on the other fight promotions that are doing well and starting to fight good, and offer them, look, not fight contracts. We'll just offer them a fight, and if we can get the match with someone from Melbourne, Sydney, or Canberra, and bring that person up to have that fight show. So then it makes it a little bit more, for people to sort of, log into the, live stream and watch from down south as well. So that's the plan. So, for everyone we've spoken to so far, they're all on board with us, and, they're waiting for us to go ahead. So, as I said, fingers crossed July 2, it pulls off. Yeah. I think it will. I'm optimistic. I'm going to say it will.
It will. The best.
Jesus, mate. You all right there, Andrew?
Yeah. Just
tired, mate.
Big day today, sorry.
That's all right.
He's probably drunk.
PTSD or
But I
something.
think sometimes, Peasy, from the outside looking at Queensland and WA, you guys have like a double-edged sword where you have so many fighters and so many gyms that you can just keep reeling off fight card after fight card, packed full of your locals, and you're never really forced to bring into, like, you might have to fly one or two in. But I think what you're doing will be great. They get some people from, like, we've got guys that have fought on Rebellion like 20 times. I would love to get interstate to fight, and nobody else fly them up.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. That's what I said. We had a pretty good, we had a few of Kieran's guys up. We had guys coming down from Townsville. So we're trying to make it so it's not just the local group, because no offense, the local group, everyone, there's some good gyms out there, some good fighters, but every promotion seems to be centered around the same dates. So you've got to pick and choose. I mean, I'm not going to put, like there's shows a week apart or 2 days apart and things like that. Man, there's 52 weeks of the year, and they're just not spaced out enough. And I know, look, there's good fighters, but it just needs to be, the infrastructure's not right for that. And I can belt my head against the wall till the cows come home. This has been going on for 20, 25 years, and it's, sometimes it gets good, sometimes it goes bad, So hopefully this year, things will pan out a little bit better. Some of the deadwood might fall off, and everyone starts to work together in a more of a wholesome way, and build the sport, not necessarily build their pockets and so forth a little bit, put a little bit back in to help.
Now, these boys have lost their tongues today, so I'm going to keep talking.
Well, I actually before. Okay, Si.
Well, Kieran's going to say something, everyone.
Yeah, everyone should.
Stop.
Go, Kieran.
Confetti.
Easy.
Yeah.
You think so? Queensland is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last state without a combat sports authority.
Mate, we've been. I've travelled this road for about 20 years. We need a combat sports commission.
This was going to be my question. Yes, because for me, for all the shortcomings of some of the combat sports organisations, I think some states do it better than others. I think
sure do.
Better than New South Wales, what have you. Yeah. But do you think if you had one, although there is negatives to come with it, it would stop some of like the better lack of a word riffraff or what have you and force them out?
100%. But we've been talking about this. I can remember back and you guys remember John Coburn when he was the president of the Oceania Muay Thai. We had a structured out plan that they Combat Sports Commission were going to come in. We used to draw up, and Nugget, myself, Paul McCauley, the Fogartys, Joe Hilton, and we'd sit down and we'd put together how a show should be run. A sponsor pack from to time you sort of have the initial idea to day of the show, what you did, week 3, 4, 5, 6 show date, with sponsors, and just so people knew what they're doing, but also knowing that they had a sufficient bank account to roll the show in case they didn't get sponsored. Just little things like that, and that never came to fruition. And then everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming." No, I've been here for 20 years. It hasn't come. It hasn't come.
Funnily enough, I even got in on a project meeting for the Queensland Combat Sports Authority, and that was a privately funded. The government funded this private enterprise to come in and lay out the project plan for it to be set in, unless they had a change of government or something. But that was like 2 years ago.
Look, mate, it needs it. 100%, it needs it. As Kieran was saying, it would sort the riffraff out, because some of them wouldn't be able to run a show because of what they do and so forth. I've been to some shows where there's no doctor even present. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen. So it definitely needs a shake up. And would I believe that would help? Yes, because that way then, they're monitoring the sanctioning body, make sure the sanctioning body is doing everything above board. No offense to my good mate Chad, there wouldn't be allowed to be a fight with Chad versus someone at 20 kilos heavier and stuff like, because it's just not right. It's not right. As simple as it is. It's unfortunately, it's a carnival act, and it made us, as much I know Chad wants to fight and things like that, it didn't make it good for us, because it looked like exactly what I said, a carnival act. And I didn't like it, and I know he didn't like it either, but he needs to be paid as a fighter and needs to get paid.
Peasy, who regulates medicals and blood tests and stuff? Do you the promoters are I'm assuming self-regulate to an extent?
Yeah, well, Dan Bell appears he speaks to me quite frequently. I'm not, my show was not going to be any sanctioning. First, I wanted to do my very first show back with nobody, no sanctioning body. Just I had a WBC judge, a WMC judge, and a WKBF judge, and they all knew each other. No, they didn't know each other. Sorry. So that way, then I would hopefully get a really good gist of what was going on. But when it comes to now, who checks the blood? It's up to the promoter themselves. But are they doing it? Do you know? I mean, I've told all my fighters at the beginning of the year the usual thing. You get yourself, go and get your bloods for the first 6 months of the year. Get them on your phone, send them to me. We'd them all up and locked. I mean, I've been to promotions, unfortunately, where my fighters weighed in but never had their bloods checked at all. So would it help? Definitely, mate. I believe we definitely need it. Will it happen? Who knows?
It's always interesting going up to fight and even like my guys, and I think Kieran, yours is probably the same. A lot of the time we're just not used to bringing that type of stuff to shows because it's all handled, done and dusted by the combat sports authorities.
That's it, exactly. So
they rock up, they're like, what do you mean I need to bring my blood? So, well, it's not a government thing. So
I told most of my guys to have them on their phone, so that way in a folder, so that way, and they can send it to me. So if we go to a fight show, I can click through, or they can click through and give it to the promoter. But half the time they're not getting any answer it, so it defeats the purpose. But with the Combat Sports Commission, that would just alleviate so many problems. Again, trying to put on a title fight with someone that's had 90 fights up against somebody that's had 15 fights, that wouldn't be allowed to happen. Checking their bloods and just all that sort of stuff, we wouldn't have to worry about. Checking their hand wraps correctly, because I mean, I'm watching. I'm not going to say what shows, but you go to shows and you get like a 15-year-old kid crossing your hands off and thinking, who are you? You could wrap it with with toilet paper rolls in there and no one would even know. Don't just wrap it and put their initials on it. So it's needed, man. It definitely is needed, Kieran. 100%.
And I think those things sometimes our combat sports, people complain about it, but I think they do a really decent job. CSA in Sydney, that I'm not like world's #1 fan of them, but at least they get it done. But there's some level where it's inconvenient sometimes. But at the end of the day, do I rather have a little bit of inconvenience, but not have that on my hands where I have to remember to check bloods and all that on top? Then
look, the severity of something, if something went wrong at one of these fight shows with no doctor present and things like that. Man, the repercussions of lawsuits is just phenomenal. What you think about, what could happen? Some parent could really take them person to the cleaners. But
I still can't believe that nothing's happened. I'm gobsmacked with the amount of fight shows that go on up there. And the stuff that I've seen, I honestly cannot believe.
Well, don't get me wrong. There's some great promoters like Paul Vandercolly does. It's all we all know what goes on with there. We get their bloods, everything's done. Because we know each other, and Paul is usually bringing people from all around Australia and so forth. So Destiny obviously do the same. So I've been told now as well, and there's a couple other promotions as well. But some of these smaller ones, we will say that as I said, I've been to one of these shows, which I'll never go again, and no doctor present. I'm thinking, whoa, what happens if old mate gets badly hurt? But there's there's a phone call to make, and as soon as that phone call's made, the ambulance can be there within 10 or 15 minutes. I don't think that would ever happen, but
but it kind of feels like even from a sanctioning body perspective, and I know they've had some challenges up there with MTA or MTQ with just trying to enforce rule sets. So that everybody's on the same page, but as soon as someone tries to enforce
that's what I can't understand.
We're just going on to the next sanctioning body. They'll allow it, so we'll just get onto it. And I don't know, just a bit of a controversial one, I guess, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on kid fighting. I mean, here we can register with our Combat Sports Authority to fight as an amateur from 14 years and older, which isn't ideal for the youngest guys, but up there, I mean, guys are having fights from 5 years old.
Yeah, look, I'm not a fan of it. Okay, look, my youngest son fights. He's just turned 17. Had his first fight when he was 16. Head guard, chest guard, shin pads, how about that's fine. I don't mind that. Obviously, restricted rules and all that. I feel 5-year-old, they should do more your gym spars and so forth. I believe. 13, 14, I think is a good age to start it. And I do believe, and I've even told this to Dan Bell, I think 1 to 5 fights of those guys, 14 to 17, they should be wearing head guard, chest guard, shin pads, like an IFMA. 100%. After 5 fights, they can take off the chest guard and they can put the elbow pads on then, and they can start doing a little bit better like that. How it's meant to be run. And we did used to do that, but obviously some other promoters, don't do it. So people think, hang on, I don't have to wear pads on that one. I'll go to that promotion, as you were just saying. So, there's people that are trying to stick to the rules that some of you guys enforce and play by. But there's people out here that won't. I mean, I've been watched. I don't like watching 5-year-olds fight. To me, they're not emotionally ready for one. If they get hit hard by something coming in like that, and it tends to be more about the parent sometimes, as you've probably seen at fight shows. But I think probably 13 years of age, I feel they're ready, a little bit more mature. But I do believe it should be padded all the way through.
I was going to say that was going to be the next question. What are your thoughts on padding for teens? I mean, there's a fight in particular that I'll never forget. I think it was Brandon Spain
and Corey Still.
Yeah, I'll never forget that fight. It was the first time, because I knew both the kids and I knew that they were just kids, and the way that fight happened, it was a crazy fight. Like the whole stadium was just going bananas, but knowing that they were still kids and what happened, it was the first time I've actually felt a little bit like uneasy about my own sport. I mean, I've seen kids fights in Thailand. It's so different. For me, man. It's a totally different fight. And when I was watching that, I was like, oh. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on protection for, let's say, under 13s versus over 13s to 18?
Well, under 13s, I've only got one young kid who's 11 who does fight. But again, he all wears all the pads and all that sort of thing. Most of them are either between 13 to 15, my teens. But they have to have a head guard, they have to have a chest guard, because not only am I a coach, I'm also a parent of a kid that does this. So I want to protect my son as much as I possibly can, because even though he thinks he's God's gift to it, he's not up to speed with it all yet. So they can take the pads off one day and somebody comes through with a step through elbow, he might not have that guard tight enough as yet. Might get 6 stitches in his forehead. I'm thinking to myself, hang on, does he want to go to university and do something different? I mean, I'm not, it's up to him, but you got to protect the kids, mate, because at the end of the day, it's only a sport, and as you know, you don't play Muay Thai. It's a very, very dangerous sport. So pads all the way from 1 to 5 fights.
Yeah. What about you boys, Kieran?
I agree, man, because I think that it's my opinion of it is different when they're kids on like building up, meaning like no head contact and no elbows, versus what it is for adults because of the developmental stage they're at. When they're adults, I look at it completely different. But when I look at like a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, they're still growing. And it's especially even the little kids when you see, it's not necessarily, sometimes it's not the trauma to the head from the punch. I hear the argument of like, they can't hit that hard, so they're not going to hurt. And you think, no, but what if they fall on the canvas and they smack their head?
Yeah.
No, and they're 8 years old, like the trauma that they can experience from that is huge. So
some of those young kids, their cognitive learning skills aren't even up to scratch yet.
Absolutely. And it's like you say, Andy, it's different to Thailand, man. There is not going to be a kid in Australia who is saying, I'm doing this for my parents so that we can make money and survive. They're doing a sport. And like, I'm completely on the same page. I think a structured developmental way to build them up into it and pad them up and just protect them, because like we have guys in this sport who start in their mid-20s and can become really well known. Guys like Kevin Ross, man. Kevin Ross didn't start till he was in his 20s, and then he was famous. Like, we don't have to rush him so much.
I think the UK have got it sussed out pretty good. They have the development days and all that sort of thing, even for young kids. And again, they have, D grade, C grade, B grade, and A grade. And most of those kids that, if they're between 11 to 13, they're doing virtually hardly any contact, no head contact with punches. It's all to the body, and they're padded up from heel to the, by the time they've had, 13 or 14, they've had probably 30 or 40 foundation day spars. So by the time they hop in the ring, these guys have actually got some good skilled talent. Prime example, you look at Max, look at George Mann. Those guys have had many junior fights, development days before they've even stepped into the ring, So I think Australia really needs to, get behind that sort of a program, because, we're all, some states are, Western Australia has got a pretty good structure anyway.
Yeah, I like that.
Which they do. But up here, it's sort of one promoter does one thing and then another promoter does something else. I know people are trying to do it, but then it's that, the inclination. Some kid thinks he's really, really good at 13. And, some of the parents go, oh, he's great. Hey, he doesn't have to wear pads on this guy's promotion. Take the, and he'll go over that promotion side of things. So it's really, really hard. But, if it was all structured by a combat sports commissioner and saying, okay, from the ages of here to here, this is how it's going to be. Doesn't matter what sanctioning body you're fighting with. This is it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm asking you, like, the promoter's hat, just while we stick on that, because it's a question we're trainers, but you're like one of the primary promoters here, other than the other guys, but for regular shows, like, for the common objection that you get sometimes with padding is the promotional aspect.
Yeah.
Like the entertainment and the promotional aspect. What's your, this isn't really a straight question, but what's your sort of take on it, Si? When you look at
I divide into three things. The kids thing, being a dad myself, I don't want my 8-year-old son or my 5-year-old daughter getting punched in the head repeatedly. I don't necessarily agree with like super specialized as a young person. I think they should be exposed to lots of different sports, compete stuff, but also learn things, not to take damage. We talk about the Thai system and the English system, but you look at the Soviet system and stuff where at an early age, you're not getting specialized training. You're getting exposed to a lot of sports. And in the long term, when you pick up a sport and you want to specialize it, you're better off at that. I had a mom call me once here and go, do you do boxing class for a 6-year-old? I'm like, no, like the youngest we take is 12. She goes, oh, my son was boxing in Queens. I was like, go put him in judo or gymnastics or something. And she goes, oh, he was boxing and he was going to have a fight. I'm like, and she was really annoyed that I didn't think her 6-year-old or 7-year-old should be having a boxing fight where they're getting hit in the head. I'm like, I just don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. But as far as the promotional side of it, Kieran, I think a lot of shows and events present amateur padded fights that should be almost paying nothing to watch it, and it's for the development of the athletes
exactly
as a way to promote. And that's why we've from day one, from Rebellion, I wouldn't let people wear shin guards and stuff. I'm like, that's the amateurs. And even with the amateurs now we do them in a shitty basketball stadium, no walk outside, no lights, and you pay $30 to come and watch it, because I think it's partly the promoters just want to make money without actually having to pay fighters.
Exactly.
That's what happened here. No, we didn't really even have a professional scene. It was just all amateurs. No padding and everything. And then when Combat Sports Authority stepped in, everyone kicked up a big fuss. You were charging professional a ticket, like advertising it like a professional show, and not a single fighter's getting paid.
And the closest in New South Wales, because you would have had it, and even I had it for my first maybe 2 fights, the only thing we had was the wetsuit shin guards.
Yes.
That was the only ever form of padding that we ever had, and it maybe lasted 1 or 2 fights when like ISCA or WKA had rules of like, first 1 or 2 or this or that, but we never had anything else really. I think for a bit there they had like body protect, but it was so haphazard and just whatever. It was,
And I don't buy the whole, the kids, okay, they can't punch that hard, but they're also, their neck development and their strength and stuff isn't great. And their brains are developing. They're like at a developmental stage. Do you want them to have that much impact for what? And is it more because your kid wants to do it? Or is it because of your own sort of personal ego, I guess?
I guess the tricky one, and this is probably another good part of this combo is about once they get to that 16, 17, 18 age where they are technically adult men or getting to that level where I think once they've got a particular skill set, then maybe that type of thing can work. But I still find it hard because even we've got rules where we can't have an age gap bigger than I think it's 5 years or 2 years. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. The problem happens when we're trying to bring ties over. I remember, I think you've had a couple of problems with it before, where there are 17-year-old kind of killer fighting on the top circuit over there, Yod Wichar and things like that. Here, we can't turn pro until we're 18 anyway, and we've got to wear elbow pads all the way up until that fight. Whether that's holding him back or not, I'm not quite sure. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, that's on the series of fights that never happened on Rebellion. When Sidichai was booked to fight Toby, and then Toby had to pull out that week, and Kim took the fight. Before that, he was supposed to be Tongchai Sitsongpanong fighting Toby.
That's right. And
Tongchai's birthday is in January, and my show was on the 14th of December. So he turned 18 on the 10th of January. My show's on the 14th of December. He was the current Lumpini champion. So I speak to the board here and I'm like, I want to bring this guy out. He's going to be 17 years and just over 11 months. They go, cool. He can fight in Vaxa, which was the VAMA at the time, with headgear and elbow pads and shin guards. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bring the current Lumpini champion. And I'm like, can I have a 3-week thing? They're like, no, I'm like, fuck. That was like such a binary. It's either a yes or a no. It's like, there's no gray area. Like, he's 17 and a bit. It's like, okay, fuck it.
Tricky one.
Yeah. I don't know. So, but I mean, similarly, that is at the same age when kids start going real full, like a lot of like rugby. And I mean, if not, that's also exactly for contact sports, head trauma is just a part of it. We want to minimize it while they're developing, but then you get to a point where it's just the choice that you make, because you get kids in, I mean, we've got like a big rugby union. We're a big rugby union city in Canberra, and there's just concussions everywhere all the time, more so than there is in our sport. I think you get to that point where it's either, well, if not in our sport, it would be in another, but also you can't coddle them forever. If it's their choice to want to do it, it's just got to be well, we think you're at that point and it is what it is, and go. And
but it's the pathway thing. Like we MTA forever. Like, I mean, every document Anthony Manning ever wrote, everything that we've ever done was about pathways. And if you go, there's no pathway. You learned how to punch, kick, nail, elbow. Okay, now this is it. You're fighting Muay Thai. Like, there's a junior program, the junior thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with that pathway. Like, you need to have it. One of your guys, Chad, actually, Peasy, first time I ever saw him fight was on Matty Reed's show in Shepparton. The board started to really crack down. So I think 16-year-old and above could fight. And he fought Richie Fanous and put on a hell of a fight. And then I spoke to them. I'm like, all right, we'll get him out. And that's when they changed the rules, and we had to wait till he was legal. This is good practice for you, Kieran. Wait till he got legal and then bring him out. Oh,
got that lawyer on the phone? Did the lawyer mention anything about
that was a
centered?
That was my one for the day.
But yeah, we're out without. It's going to be interesting. It'd be good to come back when we've had a year of this show and come back and see how we go, because we launched our junior development series here for the from 6 to 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Everyone's on board.
You would have been talking with Dan Bell then quite a lot, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He's been bouncing some ideas off me, and he's asked me, and I said, look, mate, I said, my sons, I've never pushed them. My youngest one now, because he's fighting, they did it from the time they were 6 to about 8. Then he was really good at soccer, and he continued playing soccer. And then at the end of last year, he said to me, end of the year before, he goes, Dad, I don't want to play football anymore. I said, why's that? I said, you got to play a sport. He goes, I want to do Muay Thai. I want to fight. So he's come into the sport. So I believe, I said, even some of these kids now that have had, some of these little kids down here have had 15 up to 30 fights, some of them, I still don't believe they should have the elbow pads coming off. at all, man. And they should have the head guard on. You know, you can take the shin pads off, or or even a lighter shin or a more lightweight shin pad. But the structure of it, man, I said, as a parent, I worry. As a coach, I've seen some kids. You think, well, hang on, like you said, you had Tongchai was 17, he had current Lumpini champion. What would you do with that? I mean, here we can't do anything. Over there, they'd laugh at you. I
found it really interesting when we launched. Yeah. We've got those rules in, and it's more point sparring than anything, but it's designed as a pathway to get people in for them to be able to compete as safely as possible and whatnot. We do get quite a few parents asking, like, why can't we just go for it, and why can't we? And it's
no, mate, I get it all the time.
Like, your kid kick properly, we want to learn how to teach him how to win too, right? So it would be interesting to see if we have this conversation next year, how that all goes, because we've got the events all coming up. So we've had 2 already. It was a bit of a success, the last one. So let's see how it goes.
And we have it this year. Quote unquote, the WBC, we've got our youth games this year, which is going to be the first one ever. So it's a bit of a tester, and it's going to be held in Calgary in Canada in August this year over 3 days. And it's going to be starting at age 10. So 10 is the youngest that can compete, all the way up to 17. 17 is the max. Yeah. In obviously particular age categories and particular weight categories, and then corresponding rules like no contact of this, you have to wear all this equipment, blah, blah, blah. Very, very, very structured. And so I'm going to we want to put an Australian team together and send it over. I'm interested to hear what the response will be from some trainers or parents or whatever, because there are some rules where it's like, no, they can't do that. Yeah. They can't do this. It is going to be quite strict because the focus is on development and giving them a youth competition. And I know IFMA does something similar, obviously, when they do their games. Yeah,
man, the parents love them. But
and it's I think it'll be
bigger than the adult ones, like 50 people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it'll be great. But yeah, I'm curious to see, like, across all the countries, the response. And I mean, I know, like, the usuals already have massive teams, Russia, America, this stuff, and so I'm pretty keen to see how they're running it across that age and the response that we get here in Australia too. Shameless plug as well.
Yeah, it'd be good. Good to see.
Peasy, with Chad coming through now, and he obviously spent quite a bit of time in Thailand training. Yeah. His style definitely changed that initial period that he went to Sancti and Noise. He was a little bit more jump around and a little bit kind of loosey when he was here, and then when he went to Sancti, he tightened up a bit more. And then obviously Revolution with Tim. How do you find training with him? Has your styles gelled together well?
Yeah, look, we worked on a few aspects of his game because he was fighting through a lot of the stadiums. So stadium fighting is different to outside in Australia or America or wherever. So he wasn't going to sit back and just use the one leg. So we got him using his right side a little bit more as well. But he's relentless. Like, I mean, if I got someone like James Honey or Jade Nino on the pads, if I've thrown a combination or they're throwing a combination, I can sort of back off and have a slight little break and walk away. Chad won't. He stalks you the whole time. And it's like, mate, go away. Keep away from me. He's relentlessly on the pads. He just keeps stalking forward. You probably saw in his last couple of fights, even that Clinton Smith, he just religiously just kept stalking the whole way and didn't give the guy a break. If the guy turned around to walk away, he was on him again, just didn't give him a chance to breathe. So it sometimes can be detrimental, as we all probably know. If you get somebody that's a little bit more crafty, he can walk into things. But I think he enjoyed his time more at Sangtan's than at Tim's, and the way he fought there compared to now was pretty different. Yeah,
I remember Tim telling me when he was training there that he's never seen anything like him, like the work ethic and exactly what he's on the pads and everything else. It's just phenomenal watching him.
He's relentless, man. Like, I'm tired after holding pads to him, whereas because I can turn around to walk away and he's just beside me ready to go. Mate, back off.
It's like Kieran with it. Oh, sorry.
I
got one. Yay, that's me, buddy. Asshole.
Yeah, he's we're booked for Japan in April 2, on the rise. So that's now the first show for him. It's Patch Panamrong from Mukal. So yeah,
that's hang on, man. That's
it's a big fight. It's a big fight. You know, that's why we really wanted the Lobo fight first, because I thought the Lobo fight would have been a really good fight, because he knows Lobo pretty well. He knows his style, and I was watching tape after tape of him, just what he does, and it would have suited Chad's relentless style moving forward. Whereas Patch's southpaw and it's a different ball game, man. Patch likes to throw that big punch and that big kick like they all do from Mukal. So yeah, you're going to now change back to that structure. So
he'd be bigger than Pet Panamrong, wouldn't he? Like I feel like Chad would be
63.5
stature and
Chad
looks physically bigger than
taller, but Patch is thick.
Yeah,
Patch is quite thick, eh? Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting fight. We're really good. That's really looking forward to going over there again. It's been a while since I've been there, so it'd be good. I think the last time I went there was with Aaron Lee and Pixie, so a long time ago.
It is one of the things that you'd be hoping that because Lobo's fighting a lot in the stadiums over there, and the world title fight is obviously going to be held in Australia.
Yeah.
Are you hoping that his style adjustment, he won't be able to adjust to fighting here?
That's the plan. I watched his last fight with Siri, and now, no offense, Siri's too small for Lobo. That fight was stupid. Should never have even happened. It was well, I thought it was a give me fight. Did you agree with that? It was a give me fight.
I couldn't believe that they matched that fight.
It was stupid. And I watched it, and you could see he still does the same thing. Like, he's good, but he's very cautious. He counters all the time. And I think if Chad's going to be in your face, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. But he fights again end of this month, if I'm correct. End of January, this week.
Supposed to be fighting, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's this week.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So it depends how the Australian judging looks at it. You know, do they because whereas Lobo does continually fight at the stadiums, stadium fighting is completely different to stepping outside and fighting in a different country and so forth.
Well, they're Andrew Parnham's judges, Peasy. So if you slip him 100, he can
Brown paper bag, man. Easy.
Don't be silly. Just get Chad to go train there for a couple of times, get to know the judges.
There we go. There you go.
But yeah, we're really very disappointed.
Or Andrew, can Peasy get that special exemption you guys get where him and the other cornerman can just judge the fight for him?
Yeah, maybe. I have to put it in writing and inside a brown paper bag.
Nice.
Another one, Peasy, don't want to ask. A fighter like Jaden, who's he fights at 79 kilos now.
79 to 82, just yeah. Anything lower, it takes too much out of him. And I feel he's best at around about 80, 81, but it can make 79.
Come on, he's a bit of a fatty. He could drop some weight.
Yeah, I reckon too,
off what? Off his hair, maybe.
This is disgusting.
How's his OnlyFans account going? Is he killing it?
Mate, I don't know, mate. He's everywhere, mate. He's everywhere. I take my hat off to him because he's relentless at training. He had the Pixie work ethic. He gets in, he trains hard from start to finish, goes home, does his meal plans, either goes to work or goes and trains against, in his strength work or doing PTs. He's just non-stop, Look, I think he's probably a 5 or 6 hour sleeper a night, and then might get an hour during the day somewhere as well, just to sort of keep his body. But man, he's relentless. I just love his work ethic for training. It's always full on, and I love it. Other guys will come in and whinge. He'll just, you don't get too many words out of him at all, but he gets in and just trains, and that's what I like. If you can do that, right? Oh, I can't train tonight, my legs sore. He'll just train. He'll train through it.
Andrew, you should have asked Kieran about his OnlyFans thing, because Kieran's got an all-access one. He pays the special fees. But yeah, I had Jaden out 5 years ago, and I'm like, does this guy, when he was with Arslan, I was like, does this guy hate me? He didn't say a word. Even afterward, nothing in the lead up. We had one SMS communication about his blood work, and I'm like, he doesn't say much. And then at that last print show, he was actually
Yeah, got out
to the back. I'm like, cool. Okay.
Well, him and Charlie sort of become, they've fought twice now, and like Charlie's got the edge on him definitely, but Jaden and him have, I don't know, they've got like a mutual sort of respect for each other type thing. So, and I can see Jaden's now, he's come out of his shell since he's been with us. I mean, he's still very, not quite, he's very reserved. He doesn't need to speak unless he has something to say type thing, whereas James Honey will come in and James Honey's like, yeah, boys, like, what if, he's from Shepparton, mate, what do you expect,
Hopefully he can teach Si when to speak and when not as well. That'd be pretty cool.
With Jaden, and I guess Charlie's in the same boat, and the reason I was asking about him is there isn't like a ton of 79, 82 kilo guys running around. So looking at his career in the next couple of years, like as his trainer manager, what do you see that developing? Because I mean, other guy would be Charlie, and they fought enough times, I'd say already.
Yeah, so. Look, I think they've had, fought enough to understand that Charlie at present is definitely the number one at that weight for him. I think, I think there's a few other guys still floating around, like Stefan Lottering as one. And whoever else, there's got to be a couple of guys in Melbourne maybe that will have a crack. Then I think it's a matter of myself being the promoter to bring an international in, or we've still got a pretty good rapport with my good friend and one of my major sponsors at Hard Knocks. When he does his Hard Knocks promotions, I'll always bring Jaden, because Jaden, he worked there for a little while as well, and the crowd love him over there. He's got the long hair, he's got the look type thing. And it's just, he's not a drinker. He eats well. He's a clean living guy, and just, it's what a lot of fighters aspire. But yeah, same as me.
It's just me, basically.
Same.
Yeah, it's you in a nutshell. You in a nutshell, Si, definitely. Polar opposites. A little bit like me and Jane, polar opposites. But we get on well. He does well on, as I said, he's so strict on, he's got his weekly plans set up, and from Monday till Sunday, and it doesn't veer off it one little bit.
And would you think, Peasy, like with his, because when you look, obviously because he's come from a different background, and stylistically he often and still does things that are different to a lot of your guys and girls. He still has those weapons, they work for him, but they're different, right? Like you see him throw the occasional spinning technique or whatever, and
look, I believe he throws those when he gets put under pressure and is at a loss of what to do. But sometimes it pulls off, Yeah,
absolutely.
And if it pulls off, good luck to him. If it doesn't, sometimes it can look very messy. But, since the COVID break, probably since around about September, October last year, we've been working on restructuring his kick to make it more like a Muay Thai kick, more so than a kickboxing kick, and it's come a long way. So he's, and again, he's one of these guys that likes to be shown and learn new things. He's been doing martial arts and Muay Thai and UFC, MMA for probably 8 years. So, and for him to always say, mate, have a look at my kick, we video it, we watch it, break it down and see, okay, this is where I'm going wrong, and this is what you need to do. So he's, big on learning as well. So I hope he's only 24. You know what I mean?
Really?
Wow, really?
Oh, shit.
Apparently he fought down at Rebang when he was 16 or 17 or something with Arslan. So he's still only very young,
Yeah.
I know everyone cares.
Speaking of developmental pathways, Si?
Yeah.
He would have been.
Want to address that on air right now?
Well, he must have been 17 or 18.
He would have been.
I heard he was 12, Peasy. I heard he was 12.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's only 18, and that was a classic rebellion matchup. Queenslander versus a guy from New Caledonia.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy. That was like
that was
a favor for Mr. De Macaulay, and out of respect to Arslan, and I was like, all right, I'll put this fight on.
Yeah.
And first fight of the night, got it done, and then we moved on.
Yeah. So as I said, he's still learning, he still develops, and he's still, he's been learning some things off Chad with the clinch and things like that as well. So we tend to, move it around a little bit, but he's improved his kick. So again, I think it's, once we've sort of, a bit like Charlie, you've got to put it out there now. And if he can't get internationals, what else is there to do? He's got to try and find something else. But, if the borders all open and, freedom is upon us. I feel he's got a few good fights that he could have, especially in Abu Dhabi, where he can fight there's a few Iranian boys that he fought. He's fought one over there before. It was a tough fight, but old mate blew his leg out, and that Jaden just kept going for it. That was a mad fight. So there's a lot of fighters that we can sort of get to, but just got to get to the places to do them. That's their problem.
Whether it's your own gym or outside of the gym, who are you? I'll just get my list out. Who are your like top 3 guys to look at coming through in Queensland? Andrew, put your pen down.
Oh, sorry.
In Queensland.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Alfie Smith.
Alfie Smith. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from Bloodshed. Yeah, he's I've admired him, and like I'm trying to get him on my fight show. He's just a young kid. He's fought 2 of my boys. He fought as one of my juniors a couple of years back, and my boy won, but and then he fought Clinton, and he beat Clinton quite convincingly. I'm a big fan. I think he's only just turned 18.
Oh, so
yeah, and to me, he's definitely one to watch.
What weight is he?
Who else would I say is good to watch the present stage?
The one that was going to fight Chalk, Andy, on your show, Mark. Was
Pardon
going to fight Chalk?
Yep.
He was going to fight, yeah, but then what happened there? Chalk couldn't come. No, you guys got locked out.
Lockdown.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I got Lombardi from Fight Center.
Yeah.
Which they're now fighting on Infliction now. So that fight. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Alfie goes. But I'm a big fan of him. Yeah, I think he's going really, really well. Other than that, who would I say with it? Not from I won't throw anyone from my gym. I'll throw some other gyms. Obviously Lockie Ogden, big fan of him. Always have been. He's going MMA at the moment now as well. So it'd be interesting to see how he does on that. It's just a shame that we can't get these guys to good fights in Muay Thai to keep him in the sport that I feel he will excel at anyway.
Yeah.
So definitely him. And there's a guy that came down and did a PT with me, David. I can't think. He trains at Methodical Muay Thai up in Gladstone.
Tall boy, right?
Pardon me?
Is he quite tall?
Tall boy, mate.
I've seen him before. Really composed. Has
Beautiful style. Yeah, beautiful style, mate. Really like watching him fight. He wins and he loses. I think in the future he's going to be a good boy to watch.
I saw him fight on Rogue and I think one other promotion. So I pull your hand down, and he was for his number 5, he was impressive. Really good composure.
Yeah, he's got a nice style. So they're the 3 guys that I sort of think are doing really well, and they're all only young. I won't throw my fighters in. I'll just put those 3 in. But Alfie Smith definitely for me is my number 1.
All right. So outside of those 3, only your gym. Who's your best up and comer?
I've got a guy by the name of Jagger Chan. His name's Jagger Chan. Remember that name? He's had 8 fights, 7 wins. He's moving along like 63 to about 65, but he's booked because you did ask me about 63 kilo boy. He's coming up quite nicely. A couple of juniors, as in Harvey Newell. He's 16. He's had 5 fights now. Last fight with a KO knockout, so with a big head kick. So they're the up and comers, but then you got the usual suspects with Natalie Pavlidis moving along nicely now. Brittany
what weight
Dollarham
is she fighting at now?
I mean,
sorry to interrupt. What weight is she? What's her main fight weight at the moment?
Natalie.
Yeah.
55. 55. Yeah. Natalie's lower than and Brittany. Brittany fights at 57 because when Brittany was with Richard, she was fighting at 61. And I looked at her because Victoria came and trained with us for a few weeks. And I looked at Victoria and I looked at Britt, and I thought, my God, Brittany's so much smaller than what Vic is. And I thought, what? How come you go? Well, that's what Richard wanted me to fight at. I said, what do you walk around at? And apparently she walks around about 60, 61. So I think it was definitely, Britt could probably get a little bit lower, to be honest, as well. It could probably get down to 55 and a half, maybe somewhere around there, done correctly. And then you got the usual suspects, James Honey coming through still, Chad, Jaden Enoid, Clinton Cork. There's a lot. It's just got to try and get in fights now. That's the key factor here, making sure they're on the good promotion or the right promotions, and again looking for their pathway, hoping leading them to fighting onto War on the Shore or Rebellion. Onto Rebellion.
I'm here.
Yeah, right. I'm here. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on that list.
I've got it. Don't worry, mate. It's in the process of getting it done.
There would be like say for girls like Nat, you've got girls in Victoria like Joanne.
Yeah.
Girls like her, that would be a rebellion fight, would it not, Si?
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a weight difference, but yeah, that's definitely something I've been.
What does Joanne fights? What, 52, 53?
53 kilos, yeah.
Okay. Now, because she's fighting Nakia next, isn't she?
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting fight.
Yeah.
Very interesting fight. Yeah. So yeah, Nat fights 55. Britt fights at 57. So yeah. Again, you should try and get the right fight. Most of the Natalie fights Shannon Tilbrook on Infliction. That's her next fight. So
Has Britt got anything lined up for March 19?
March 19, she got a moon boot on, mate.
I
Who
know
for?
it, girls.
Who for?
I know. I'll have to speak to the manager. Kieran, hey, how you going, man?
Hey, mate, how are you? What are you doing? What's happening?
You got a 57 kilo girl there, don't you?
I got a few.
There you go.
His girl's on one, mate.
Wait, what do you mean you got a few 57 kilo girls? I've been asking you for a 57 kilo girl for like 2 weeks.
Who?
Right.
Kieran.
No, you haven't.
So these
Guys,
conversations
this is that
just have in
thing,
your
mate.
head.
This is that thing. Just because you have the conversation in your head with me doesn't mean the conversation actually happens in real life.
Didn't I message you guys and say I need a 59 to 61 kilo girl?
Why? That's
59 to 61 is a
She'll fight at
57.
59. It's fine.
Fucking hell. That's 3-4 kilos more.
Yeah.
Different weight category.
Yeah,
Sorry, what's wrong with you, man? You got the fog. You got the post-COVID fog.
Nah, I think it's right. 59's easy. 59's easy for him. Kieran, we can't hear you.
Anyway.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. What I was going to say was, Andy, the Diandra and Brittany was that fell through on the day of Peasy's show, which was fell through, and then Diandra has fought Nat in the past on Destiny, and then on the day, unfortunately, Diandra and Brittany fell through. But yes, it was one of the two. So,
Peasy.
Yes.
We're talking a lot about your fighters and stuff, but I'm more curious in you, man. Like the history of your gym, eh?
Not that kind of gym, mate.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how that's going, but when you guys started, so you know, probably are you one of the first? You'd be one of the first legit Muay Thai only gyms.
Yep, 100%.
How did that happen? How did that get started? What kind of made you go from fighting? And I've seen the fights of you back in the day in Chuang Stadium and stuff like that.
Where you
to opening up your gym and ending up where you ended up.
Okay, well, I was obviously a lot of pathway, very similar to Nuggets as well, doing Zendo Kai karate, and they used to do mat competition. So like guys like I remember Stephen Vick and Dominic Delaney, all those sort of guys, they were doing these things as well. So you'd have a team of 3 plus a female, and you'd have competition fights. And my SORA instructor said, look, we can do it, but I said, I'm not really clued up on it. So I went and watched a fight with him. I was only in June, so it was like 17 or 18. We went to the Mansfield Tavern, of all places. That's still going today. And a guy by the name of Tony Quinn was fighting Gary Pedersen from Sydney.
Oh,
it was a Commonwealth title kickboxing fight. And I watched this thing and I just went, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I want to do this. My instructor just said to me straight out, said, mate, I can't teach you this. So we started doing it on our own. Myself and a couple of the guys that were training together, and we would 2 nights a week, we'd do it at home, learning combinations and stuff like that. And then I was just purely lucky. They had a gentleman from WA, Mark Simpson, who's a big referee down there, Simo. He does all the boxing, he does the Muay Thai, and he refs with Bill Steph and all that. He was a really good boxer, and he's also a kickboxing champion. So he started working with us. I was showing him more better with the kicks, and he was showing us good punches. And then Bob Jones came up to do a seminar, and he stayed at my house. And it was his first year, it was 88, so this would have been 89. He started going to Thailand, and he stayed at my house for 3 days. and was talking to us, and he was convincing us all about Muay Thai. This is the way to go. You don't do, kickboxing's good, but it's falling apart now. And we were going through with him, and by the time he'd left after those 3 days, we were hooked. We were gone, man. Like I was having to get, buy magazines from Thailand sent over, and then just purely coincidental, Tim Darmojeva come and started training with us at an old gym at Miami. Now this is an old story. He was a kid as well, and he started coming and training with us. I'm thinking, he's Thai, He says, yeah, my relations sort of own Fairtex. I'm going, what's Fairtex? We had no idea. So we started training in that, and he started training with us a little bit every now and again. And then he said, look, if you want to go and learn, go over here, come to Thailand, so I'll get you over there. So we ended up going with him, and I think that was about 90, beginning of 91, I think it was. We went over there, and man, it was just the biggest eye-opener I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen anything like it. Already being an Australian kickboxing champion, thinking I was a superstar, going in with guys that were sort of half my body weight and just making me look like an absolute doormat, flipping me over and doing things like that. So it sort of grew from there. And then we met the year after and went up to a camp up in just out of Kanchanaburi. It was on a sugarcane plantation, man, and it was the biggest eye-opener in my entire life. I've never seen anything that sort of remote and that sort of, it was more like cavemen eras. There was no windows in this. It was like a bunker with metal bars on it, and it was an old dirty concrete floor, and the bags had big indentations in it, which we soon realised if you didn't kick where the dent was, you'd bust the shin up. As you know those, Andrews, Kieran, you know those as well. You know those sorts of things. So we learned the hard way, but I sort of realised after getting to about 96, 97 that, I was an average fighter. I did a bit like Nugget. We got in, punched on. I had no one really training me unless I went to Thailand and trained. And so what I learned, I brought back, and I started doing it myself and virtually left karate. And then I had Pixie and Danny Dudowski at the time in my gym. I thought, man, these guys are starting to get really, really good. And I made a really good conscious decision in 98. I thought, this would be my luck, because Pixie fought with me and I couldn't corner Pixie. Stephen Fox had to corner Pixie. And then I fought after him. And Pixie had a really tough fight. And he lost on points. And I thought, man, I really wanted to be in the corner of this 15-year-old kid, and he got touched. He didn't get touched up, but he did get beaten. And then I fought straight after. And I said, you know what? This is the day. I'm calling it quits. I won. I won by knockout. It was probably a tuk-tuk drive. We've gone into the weigh-in. They've just looked at me, grabbed me around the arms, and they said, you fight him. And it felt, that was it. That was it. No weigh-in, no scales. And then from that day on, it was sort of like, I chose the coaching pathway because I had guys like, then Aaron Lee started coming in, and we were getting fights in Japan in the early days from about 98 through about 2003. And then we started going to Hong Kong as well. So it's sort of the coaching pathway to me is something I gravitate to and really enjoy. I really enjoy watching people succeed. Yeah. And if I've trained that person, and they've come from nothing to being who they are, it makes me feel good. And I feel very proud. And then, as I said, in 2013, I decided I need to learn a little bit more about the psychology of the new age era, because in about 2013, I believe our Muay Thai in my gym sort of changed it, because those guys was retiring. And I was getting guys that I was trying to make as good as them, but were never going to be that good. And if I yelled at them in the corner like I could do with Pixie or Aaron, I'd get a negative response, and then they'd come back to me and say, "Hang on, I was getting belted by him in the ring, and I come back to the corner, and you're yelling at me as well. Why would I give you a positive response?" So I decided, I went and did a Bachelor of Sports Coaching to understand a little bit more in the psychology and that, and I believe it's helped to no ends now. I've got people that sort of, I've passed these sort of some of the scenarios that I've been learning at uni to these guys and other coaches. And as I said, but then in 2019, when I thought we were started to going to another level again, we got hit with COVID at the end of that year in 2020. So hopefully it'll all be good. But as I said, I love coaching, and I can't see myself doing anything else. I sold out my other businesses that I had to do that full time, and I love it. It's just something that as I said, I like waking up at 4 o'clock every morning, get down to the gym and training fighters, and then training other people, and a bit like most of you guys as well, running the business side of things with it, and now trying to give back with hopefully with the promotion eventually. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Jeez, man. That's mad. God, I just can't. It's just, I think a lot of people these days don't understand how hard it was to get the information. Like now they're just blessed. There's just so much info, YouTube, Instagram, so many good gyms around. But for you to be able to go do that, and massive respect to you guys for doing that when you did that.
We had Tim sending videos. Tim would send videos of fights over for us, and I would replay the fight over and over and over again. Look how he's kicking. Look at that shot, just to get techniques right, because no one was doing it here. No, but there was no Thai coaches up here. So we had to learn. We learned the hard way. And, you go to fights and most of the fights you go to, and when I was fighting in that, and just before Pixie started, you go to a venue, they'd weigh you in, say, okay, you're 61, how many fights? Okay, 10 fights. We'll come back in an hour, see if we've got somebody for you. There's no matchups until, okay, come back in an hour. Okay, we've got a guy 64 kilos, Peasy. He's had 8 fights. What do you reckon? You'd do it. So it was very, very hard back then. But I learned from my mistakes and grounding. It's good to sort of pass. I can now get my knowledge, and as I said, I use knowledge from all my fighters, because a lot of them have come from other gyms. So I look at what they've got and see what they're good at, and I'll encompass with that as well and go with it. I love it. As I said, I watch you guys as well. I mean, I watch Kieran with these videos, and I watch you as well with them. And as I said, it's just great to watch, because I pick things up, as you would as well. I think, oh, okay, he's doing that, and you try those sorts of things. As you said, the social media and the video and the YouTube and everything. Now I can sit and study a fighter. Like for Chad, I studied about 12 of Lobo's fights from start to finish, one day, 8 hours. And I knew how he fought better than he did, and it didn't happen. So it's just, but it's good, because now I'm accountable for my fighters. I have to learn, okay, this is what this guy's going to do. If you do this scenario, this is what's going to happen. As I'm sure you guys do all that as well. But when you got guys like, you got Chuck and all those guys, and Kieran with Max and all that, you're talking next level fighters. These guys aren't going to be fighting coconuts or donuts. These guys are going to be fighting good quality fighters. So you've got to do your research as a coach to get your level. Okay, this is what this guy's going to do. If you make this mistake, he's going to do this, just things like that. So it's, today, man, it's so much easier. So much easier.
Awesome. That was great, Peasy. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully the shows get back on in July. Hopefully we get you guys down to Melbourne soon.
I'll be sending you my list, Si. I told you that.
Send it to me. I'm matchmaking right now.
Definitely.
So, mate, take care, and you too, Bozos, as always.
Thanks, guys.
Don't send me messages about anything I said, Kieran. I don't care.